Hello and welcome to today's lesson about quick common denominators. First, let's talk about some important vocabulary that you will need to know and understand for today's lesson. Quick common denominator. This is the product of the denominators of two or more fractions. For example, the quick common denominator of 3/4 and 5/6 is 4 times 6 equals 24. That would be their common denominator. As the name suggests, this is a quick way to get a common denominator for a collection of fractions, but it does not necessarily give the least common denominator. Simplest form. When a fraction cannot be named in a simpler form. A mixed number is in simplest form if its fractional part is in simplest form. In our last video, we talked about one strategy for finding common denominators. That strategy was to list multiples of each of the denominators until we found a number that matched. In this case, we would have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 9, 18, 27, 36, and 45. And since we don't have any matches there, we would start listing with the small number to see if we could match any multiples of the big number. So we'll have 12, 14, 16, 18, and if we stop there, we can see that we do actually have a match in 18. Then we would multiply the top and the bottom by the same number. In this case, 2 will be multiplied by 9, and so will 1, and 9 will be multiplied by 2, and so will 8, which will give us new fractions of 9/18 and 16/18, and then we would add those together and simplify it to make it into its simplest form. In this video, we're going to talk about a little bit simpler and quicker of a way to find those common denominators than having to sit and list all of these multiples. Let's talk now about how to use quick common denominators. Let's consider these two fractions, 2/3 and 5/8. Using the idea of quick common denominators that we talked about on the vocabulary page, this is all we have to do. First, I have to multiply 3 times 8, which means I also have to multiply 2 times 8. And then I'm going to multiply 8 times 3 and 5 times 3. And that's going to give me two new fractions. So 2 times 8 is 16, and then 24 will be our denominator. 5 times 3 is 15, and 24 will also be our other denominator. So you can see in this way that we've created a common denominator pretty quickly. And we know that it's a multiple of both of these numbers because we simply multiply these numbers by each other. Let's look at one more example of how this works. So with 3/5 and 4/9, we're simply going to multiply the denominators by each other, which means that the 3/5 side is going to be multiplied by 9, and the 4/9 side is going to be multiplied by 5. Remember that whatever we do to the bottom, we have to do to the top. Can never do something different on top and bottom. 3 times 9 is 27, and 5 times 9 is 45. There's our first fraction. And the second fraction is 4 times 5 is 20, and 9 times 5 is, again, 45. So we have common denominators. Now we've got the 45s, and if we wanted to add or subtract, or even just compare these two fractions, it would be very easy for us to do that. In this case, if we compared the fractions, we can see that 3/5 would be actually the bigger fraction between the two of these. Up top, if we compared the fractions, 2/3 is going to be the bigger fraction because 16 is bigger than 15. Here is your practice problem for the day. Use the quick common denominator method to find a common denominator for these two fractions. When you are finished, insert a symbol in the middle. You may use greater than, less than, or equal to show a comparison of these two fractions. Good luck!